Brucha Boim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Memches Amud Beis. Start with the last few words in Daf Memches Amud Aleph. The Gemara has brought several questions of Rav Papa in connection to the Chafina, the Avodah that the Kohen Gadol does in regards to the Ketores. Now the Gemara brings the last two questions of Rav Papa. Boy Rav Papa on Daf Memches Amud Beis. Chishev Chasiyas Gecholim Mahu. If the Kohen Gadol, he intends that the gathering of the coals should be then used to be burning the Ketores for the next day, but not on Yom HaKippurim. Mahu, what's the din? Is that considered to be a form of pigul or not? Now the Gemara had previously asked in the name of Rav Papa that when one has the wrong intentions about the Ketores itself, that means he intends to burn the Ketores the following day, but not on Yom HaKippurim. The Gemara concluded that indeed that would be problematic, because when you put it into the Kli, after the Koimet is done, the Kli makes it Kedushas Haguf, whereby it would be a form of pigul, just like it would be a form of lina and posel the Ketores. Now the Gemara has a new question. Granted, when it comes to the Ketores, it's posel, if indeed it has the wrong machshava, that it's going to be for the next day, just like lina would make it posel. But now the Gemara is asking here, it's not talking about the Ketores itself. We're talking about the coals that are going to be used to burn the Ketores. Machshirei mitzvah ke mitzvah damu or loy. Since it's a machshirei mitzvah, you need the coals to burn the Ketores. Is that considered to be like the mitzvah, whereby it would also be posel, just as the Ketores is, or not? Teiku, the Gemara leaves it as an unanswered question. Boy, my name Rav Sheshes. They asked Rav Sheshes the following question: Hoylocha bismoil mahu. When it comes to the avodas hadam that the kohen must do, kabolas hadam, hoylocha, bringing the dam to the mizbeach, towards the mizbeach, and the zrikas hadam, the sprinkling of the dam on the mizbeach, those have to be performed by the kohen. And we know that the zrika as well as the kabbalah must be performed with the kohen's right hand. However, what's not clear is the hoylacha, the conveying, the bringing of the dam from the point of kabbalah to the point of the zrika. Does that have to also be performed with the right hand of the kohen? Or is it going to be valid if it's done by the left hand of the kohen? What's the din? Asked the Gemara. Omar Alohu Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes answered Tinisua. We learn from our Mishnah the answer to the question. Our Mishnah states that the Kohen Gadol, he takes the machte, that is a shovel with the coals, in his right hand. He takes the kaf with the ketores in his left hand, and he walks towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So here we see that indeed one can do halacha with his left hand. Ask the Gemara, v'nif shoit luhu meha. Why didn't the Gemara bring from the following Mishnah? This not, it states, haregel shel yamin bismol ubeis ara lachutz. It states over here in regards to the kohanim who bring up the parts of the oila, the karmet tamid oila offering on the kevesh of the mizbeach. And it states over here when they bring it up on the mizbeach, it says the first kohen, he brings the rosh. The second one, he brings the regel sheyamin bismol. So the first kohen actually, he does both. The first kohen brings the rosh in his right hand and the regel yamin in his left hand. Only there's a hakpada that the part that is severed from the animal, that be in the inner part of towards the kohen, and the outer part that's facing the outside should be where its oira would be. So here we see clearly that the kohen is able to then do halacha, bring up the animal's parts on the mizbeach with his left hand. The Gemara says we didn't learn from here because imihasom, if it was from there, hava amina, I might say hani mili hoylacha deloy ma'akva kapara. This is a form of hoylacha where it's not going to then prevent the kapara because the kapara is necessary with the avodas hadam. But in regards to merely burning the evarim on the mizbeach, that's not me'akev the kapara. Aval hoylocha de ma'akva kapara loy, and therefore those that require the kapara, namely the avodas hadam. So when we're asking, can he go ahead and do holacha with the dam with his left hand, that we might not know that he can do. Kamash malan, indeed, we are learning that you can, yes, do the avodah of holacha with the left hand, as we see from our Mishnah. When I talk about Tes Amud Aleph, ask the Gemara Meisvei on this din that Rav Sheshet had just brought, and he proved it from our Mishnah that indeed the holacha can be done with one's left hand. The Gemara now challenges from the following brisa: Zar ve'oinen shikur ubal mum, a non-kohen. In oinen, where the kohen, one of his close family members, had died that day, shikur, if he had drinking, oibal mum, or he is a bal mum, he has a permanent mum, bekabola ubohilocho ubezrika posel. If he performs either the kabbalah, receiving the dam from the neck of the animal into a kli, ubahalacha, and walking towards the mizbech with that dam, ubezrika, and then sprinkling, throwing the dam on the mizbech, posul, then all of these situations would be posul. V'chein yoishev, and similarly, if these were done in a state of yeshiva instead of amida, it would be posul. V'chein small posul, and also if these were performed with the left hand. So here we clearly see that indeed the halacha, if it's performed with the left hand, is posul. The Gemara says tiyufta. Indeed, they say tiyufta on Rav Sheshes. Thereby, you have to say that which he brought our Mishnah to bring a proof lachara that one can yes do halacha with his left hand. That's no longer a valid proof, because we can now explain the Mishnah as follows: that which it says in our Mishnah that the Kohen Gadol takes the macht of the coals in his right hand and the kaf with the guitars in his left hand, that's only because he had no choice. Because like we learned in the beginning of the parak, the pasuk states that the avodah has to be done with one haba. Maloi chafna vehevi omar rachmana, which we learn out haba achas omar rachmana v'lo shtei avois. Since he can only go into the Kodesh HaKodeshim with one coming, thereby he's forced to then take the kaf in his left hand. But we can't learn from there that indeed normally a halacha can be performed with one's left hand. Ask the Gemara, once we have disproven Rav Sheshes from this brisa that states clearly that the halacha cannot be performed with one's left hand, but the Gemara asks, but Rav Sheshes himself asks from this brisa, this very brisa, therefore he knew l'chara that the halacha cannot be performed with one's left hand. Now Gemara explains, Rav Sheshes said to the one who was helping Rav Chisda give his drasha, Boy minei me Rav Chisda, ask from Rav Chisda, halacha bizar mahu. Can a non-kohen perform the halacha? Can he perform the avodah of halacha or not? We know that he can do shchita, but he can perform. Can he perform halacha? Omar lei, he answered him, ksheira. Rav Chisda said it's kosher. Umikra misayeni, and I have a pasuk to support me. What's the pasuk? Vayishchatu ha-pesach, and they shechted the carbon pesach. This is referring to non-kohanim. Vayizruku ha-kohanim miyodam v'alavim mafshitim. And the kohanim, they were sprinkled the dam from the hands that they received of the Levim, who then were mafshit the animal. So you see the Levim, who are the non-kohanim, l'chara before we say that the kohanim actually was zoik the dam, there was the halacha, which implies that the Levim, the non-kohanim, performed halacha. So I have the l'chara pasuk of Chisda that supports me to say that a zar can perform the avodah of halacha. Umoitz Rav Sheshes, on that Rav Sheshes asks on Rav Chisda from the following brisa that we saw before: Zar ve'oinen shikur ubalmum bekabol ubahalacha ubezricha Pasul. All of these avodas that are done, including a zar, a non-kohen, which would be even the avodah of halacha, would be pasul. V'chein, and the brisa goes on to say, Yoishev v'chein small pasul. And it states in this brisa that one who sits down instead of standing doing these avodas, or one who is using his left hand instead of his right hand, will also be pasul. So how can Rav Sheishes not know the very brisa that he quoted as a tiyufta to himself, that indeed one cannot perform the halacha with his left hand? Answers the Gemara, Basar deshama hadar oizba. After Rav Sheishes had heard this brisa that was quoted before, which was a tiyufta to himself, then he used this to ask on Rav Chisda. The whole asked Gemara of Rav Chisda Krok Amar. Rav Chisda had a pasuk. The Gemara says, the Amud Yomi Masechet. This pasuk is not indeed referring to halacha, but what it means to say is that the dam was given after the Kabbalas Hadam by the Kohen. He was given to the Levi, who was be'itzteba. He wasn't moving, he was standing in place, holding the dam. Then he gave it to the Kohen, who then performed halacha, and then Zrikas Hadam. So we have no proof that a non-Kohen can perform halacha. Boy, Rav Papa. Now Rav Papa asked the final of the queries, and he asked, if the fellow Kohen did the chafina, and then he put it into the hands of the Kohen Gadol, is that going to be valid or not? Mao, what's the din? It just requires the Kohen Gadol's Meloi Chayfnav, and he does have Meloi Chayfnav, and therefore it's valid. Or perhaps when it says velokach, it's also going on the chafina, that he was lokach and he brought. And since that is required, and he did not do that because it was another kohen, where it was lokach, the kitaris, and then afterwards he put it in the hands of the kohen gadol, therefore it's lacking velokach vehevi by the kohen gadol, and that would be invalid. Gemara says, teku, it's an unanswered question.